post-clinical death experiences. Is there anything on the other side?
Hey there, my name is Jonah, and welcome to the Reddit Reverb. Before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest content.
Yeah, my father was clinically dead for 4 minutes last fall after a routine biopsy. Turned septic. He's a devout Christian and he didn't see anything. He desperately wanted to see something like his mother who passed away a month earlier, or his father who died 15 years ago, or Jesus, but all he saw was darkness. He said it was like passing out, and he woke up to my mother's tears splashing his face. He asked, "What happened? Did you leave?" He thought he had fainted. He visited a therapist afterward, in part to cope with the depression that came from not seeing heaven. He's still a devout Christian, but it deeply saddened him.
It's like sleeping without dreaming or undergoing surgery, where the last thing you remember is the anesthesiologist counting backward, and the next thing you recall is waking up in the recovery room. It's nothingness, which isn't the same as darkness or emptiness. When I came back, I felt incredibly disoriented, and at the same time, strangely sure that I was thinking clearly. I kept trying to sit up and get out of bed, feeling like I had a million urgent things to do at that very moment, and I continued attempting to rise so I could run errands and brush my teeth. The doctors and nurses had to push me back into bed, saying, "You don't have to do anything. You've just died."
You don't have to do anything. You've just passed away. There's no tunnel, no light, just nothingness. You can't feel it in any way. I lost consciousness in the ambulance, and when I woke up, I was in the hospital. Less than a minute of clinical death, according to the doctors, who saved me.
For years, I had many theories about the other side, how it looked and how it felt. When it happened to me, it was just darkness, and I felt incredibly warm. It's no joke from hell. I felt like I was wrapped in a soft blanket in total darkness. I was quite depressed when they brought me back. I survived suicide and was brought back in the ambulance. The warmth radiated through all my muscles as I was dying, and I felt like I had left my body at that moment, like everything had stopped, and it felt good. I wasn't scared. I felt safe. Imagine all the stress you experience in life disappearing and you're warm. Everything feels cozy and free. It happened very quickly, and I definitely don't recommend it. My therapy was off, and now it's barely working.
My sister, a friend of ours, and I got caught in a high tide. Everyone on the shore thought we were playing, so nobody responded. I yelled as loud as I could. I fought and fought until I started swallowing and breathing in water. At first it hurt a lot, but then a sense of peace washed over me. I remember thinking, well, it wasn't so bad. I guess dying doesn't hurt as much as I always thought. I felt profound, serenity. It was at that moment that someone pulled me out of the water and brought me back to life.
I don't recall what I saw, but I remember asking if I could stay, and I didn't want to go back. I didn't hear a response or anything. As I mentioned, I only remember asking if I could stay where I was and then return on the Lifeline helicopter. I remember feeling incredible where I was, as if nothing could compare to the joy and security I felt there. I'm sorry if this doesn't make sense. It's very challenging for me to put it into words.
I had an out-of-body experience, but the only way I knew it was out of body was because my perspective shifted. It didn't feel like anything, but I was observing what was happening in the hospital room from the ceiling, looking down. I don't recall anything except being able to see my resuscitation. I saw people coming in and out of the room. I saw my family. I had a clear view of the room. I was looking down at the foot of the bed. The last memory I had before the out-of-body experience was feeling very euphoric due to the lack of oxygen, and I could hear them asking if I had a pulse. It struck me as quite funny because, of course, I had a pulse. I could hear them. I was unconscious, so I couldn't respond. It was strange because I fell unconscious, and the next thing I know, I'm watching them all from the ceiling. I have no recollection of returning to my body at all. I didn't have any deep thoughts or see any tunnels either.
My grandfather had heart troubles and was revived so many times in his life that he had gone beyond 20 minutes of clinical death. When lung cancer took him, he mentioned that in all that time, he didn't see, feel, or experience anything from another realm, as he put it. There was no white light, no tunnel, no external body.
When I was 5 years old, I was in a house fire. was clinically dead, and I have memories of having a strange vision when it all happened. The best way to explain it was that I had an out-of-body experience. I shifted from a first-person view to a third-person perspective. So I can describe my point of view as a camera with a constant zoom towards the sky, then towards space. Basically, the zoom speed increased exponentially until it zoomed out so far that I passed through strange and beautiful colors that I could barely describe. At that moment, I thought it was the sky. Now, when I try to recall it, I can describe it as passing through galaxies and nebulae. I believe that my consciousness merged with my energy and was released from my body, all the energy still accelerating outward, away from the Big Bang. I think all energy is somehow connected, and there are many types and forms of it that we still don't understand.
It's pure bliss. I can't put into words the sheer happiness, but happiness, pure happiness, relief, absolute joy. Everything was so wonderful, so good that I didn't want to return. I even got upset when they brought me back. I have so much to live for, a husband, 2 kids, and 2 dogs, yet I still didn't want to return because it was so amazing.
Once, I found myself in the ICU for over 6 months, unconscious, hooked up to a ventilator. It's quite challenging to put into words because it was essentially nothingness. During that time, there were no dreams, no connection to anything, and I lacked the capacity to ponder anything. First thing that made me aware of being alive was the ability to think.
I was clinically pronounced dead for just over a minute after a terrible motorcycle accident that left me shattered and tore a significant chunk from the left side of my face. I remember so much noise and commotion in the back of an ambulance, and then the silence, an endless, peaceful silence, the darkness and nothingness. It's not a malevolent darkness or an uncomfortable silence.
Yeah.
Very difficult to put into words. The only way I can describe it is that you don't realize how much noise there is in life. It's as if from that day, I've noticed a constant background fuzz at all times, even in the quietest of tranquil settings. And this is what I've come to call background noise of life. It has stuck with me. I always hear it. I hope that when my time is up and everything comes to an end, I'll return to that oasis of silence and serenity.
I witnessed something incredible. Something that happened during and after death. At one moment, I was on the brink of death for a couple of minutes, and the experience was astonishing. It was as if I had undergone an instant fade out, being here 1 second and then nothing the next. When I finally returned to life, I felt like I had leaped through time, momentarily disoriented. The strangest part is what happened after the deaths of 2 loved ones. There were inexplicable events that left me pondering about the afterlife and what happens after death. The day my grandfather passed away from liver cancer, I heard 3 loud knocks on the wall in my room. They sounded as if someone was knocking on a door from inside the room. Surprisingly, a few minutes later, I received the call with the news of his passing, which occurred a minute after those knocks. My brother, who now lives in our grandfather's old farmhouse with his young daughter, never met our grandfather as he was born after his passing. However, he always talks to and plays with him as if he were there. He even saw a photo of our grandfather in his younger years and immediately recognized the man he interacts with. Other young family members have also claimed to see our grandfather in the house. Our grandfather was known for his generosity and kindness, especially in his later years when he worked at a local high school helping underprivileged children. Before my brother moved in, I lived with our grandmother in her house for a few months to provide her with company. One night, while I was sleeping in her old master bedroom, I clearly heard my grandfather's voice at 2 a.m. He spoke to me in the room before the door slowly opened, unlocked by itself, and then closed. Startled, I thought it might be my grandmother or even an intruder, so I went to check. My grandmother recently passed away after a long battle with terminal cancer that spread to her brain, even though doctors had given her only a year to live 13 years ago. In my work on the railroad, I experienced a sudden sense of dread and inexplicable fear that washed over me. Even though I rarely cry, I couldn't help but break down and weep. A few seconds later, 2 beautiful birds, a male and a female, landed less than 2 feet from me and began singing a lovely song before flying away. These birds were of a species rarely found in this region, leaving me puzzled. Furthermore, my grandmother had passed away just a few minutes before the birds landed near me, and before I received the call. It may have been a mere coincidence, but I like to think it was my grandparents. to whom I was very close, communicating that they were okay. I've had other similar experiences with loved ones, and I've met others who have gone through the same. I am deeply moved and do not have a definitive answer. All I know is that there is much in this world that we still don't understand.
Absolutely nothing. I simply left, was very disoriented when I came to, but over time, that dissipated my fear of death. Knowing that I had already died once and it wasn't anything terrible, there's no darkness, no suffering, just non-existence. It's a comforting thought to know there's an end. That's the understanding I've come to regarding my death. The temporary nature of our lives is, in my opinion, what gives it meaning. I only have this very finite time, and it's up to me to choose what to do with it. Knowing that there's something as permanent as an end at the end of that road is truly reassuring. I think there are two types of people. Those who realize life has no meaning and they laugh, relax, feel the carpet beneath their toes, and take a deep breath just to solidify what it feels like. Then there are people who realize life has no meaning and they sit there with a pit in their stomach, staring off into space for a minute, just thinking about life coming and going like a car on the highway. Just when you start to get a clear picture of it, it's gone. We have a limited time on this plane of existence, as far as we can tell. So it's up to us to use it as we wish. Life exists in our heads, essentially, so you live the best you can, make others smile, and work hard to live the life you want to live. Then no matter when you die, you can die doing what you love, living life to the fullest.
Have you ever had a near-death experience?
That's all for today on the Reddit Reverb. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. I'm Jonah, and I'll see you in the next video. Farewell and stay awesome.